Islam Moors, peace and love to all the Moors. Figure might as well start up early today. 2 minutes, ain't nothing. Peace and love to all the Moors worldwide. Worldwide. You know, Islam to all the Moors who leave their messages, you know what I mean, send their emails. You know what the theme is. Study, study, study. That's the only way. The only way is study, study, study. And Islam to all the 11 realm Moors on the 22 today. And to all the astrological Moors, you know, all the nature's law Moors, all the universal law Moors, you know, Islam, solstice time, you know, the sun's chilling, you know. So we're just gonna use that energy because we already know what's up. Wanna touch on something just so people are clear. If everybody's national, if everybody's national, down with this. If everybody's national, I'm down with this. If everybody's going to recognize that that flag is the flag of their ancient foremothers and forefathers in this land, and the jurisdiction of this flag also extended across to where the quote unquote kingdom is right now, which means that they're subordinate, which proves that somebody has a superior claim to that flag. If the people in so-called North Africa are called a kingdom, and they've always been called a kingdom, and they're known as a kingdom, somebody had to be a superior party with regard to this flag. What we're witnessing in our so-called community right now is people not wanting to accept the fact of this as a reality. People love their illusions. They want to be nations but call themselves colors and call themselves continents and adjectives. Right? Yeah, well, Moorish nothing. Because Noble Drew Ali already cracked that code. They're arguing about Moorish. Don't call yourself Moorish. When that's what Drew Ali laid down for you. And put it in perspective for you. So you have no excuses not to be down with his program. Zero excuses. Prophet did the work. If you want to give him his props, it's cool. The work's still going to get done. Because it's going to be continued bloodshed until these people realize that they can't be fictions. And just so you know, how Noble Drew Ali cracked the code of qualifying that we're Moorish is that he told Moors, it wasn't a riddle, parable, nothing like that. He told Moors, you're descendants of Moroccans born in America. That's why you're Moorish American. Why are you Moroccan American? Because he had the prophecy, being that he's a prophet, to foresee certain happenings. And realize that if we say Moroccan, they're going to be trying to tie us to them. Just like when we say Islam, they're trying to tie Moors to them. And Drew Ali saw all these things coming and put all these things in place. And viewer, been denied your prophet, denied by your own. Absolutely denied the lessons that were presented to you in a public forum called newspaper, Moorish Guide, and none of your black leaders, none of them stepped up on behalf of him. Just like C. Freeman told them, told all those Moors, all those so-called black whatever guys, that all your so-called leaders passed Noble Drew Ali in the street. Why? Because he didn't have their accolades of education or whatever that they got from the European that they're complaining about now, saying, racism. You went to his school and stuff. Like, what? Why are you mad? So the crisis is mental enslavement. That's what the black leaders caused. Because Noble Drew Ali came to free the people from mental enslavement. That it wouldn't even have to be an issue right now. Having social, economical, etc. problems with mental slavery and without mental slavery is two different positions. And the activation button of the self-defense mechanism to protect you against mental slavery is nationality. But they never thought that. They figure a lie to you, tell you that you came over here on a slave ship, but the quote unquote tribe, the tribe called Seminole, the so-called tribe called Seminole, comes from Cree and Cherokee mixing with free blacks. Just go check. They don't lie. That's why they always talk about Andrew Jackson and the Seminole, because it was really free Asiatics that were over here already, that they were just free. They weren't Indian, they weren't Cree, they weren't Cherokee. They were just free blacks, quote unquote. Then these free people linked up with these other free people that they would say the black Indians. The reality is that nationality is going to be the order of the day because of people's conscious reluctance with regard to it. They know that nationality is the order of the day, but they choose to follow the fake black leaders. Because there are real black leaders. There are black leaders who know what's up, and they've been telling these people what's up. One that we could put on the record is Claude Anderson, doctor, the real doctor. Now these fake doctors going around talking about their doctor, right? Real doctor, Claude Anderson. Go listen to some of his stuff, what he talks about as a quote unquote black leader, saying black all the time. Always trying to tie so-called blacks to go with some Indian concept or idea, because that suits them better than trying to go civil rights way or constitutional way or whatever. Just go the way that the Indians went. Because when we check the records, Indians look like black people. That's his mentality. keep in mind, right, that Noble Drew Ali told these people that words would not be able to describe what is really happening and what is really going on when the people come into the truth about their nationality and birthrights. That time that he was talking about is happening. There's too many prophecies of Noble Drew Ali's that manifested in 2015 that we can't say that okay, it's that time right now, and we'll see, because only a handful is going to be saved. So we want to make sure that we continue to push the call that Noble Drew Ali made to the nations of the world on behalf of the Moors. Forget what guys say. Take his things that he presented and break him down. Break it down till it can't be broken down anymore, then build it back up again. Because the work that this man did, just remember, we just put out the video, Ali Muhammad, right? We just put out the video, and then he's putting it all out there with regard to Noble Drew Ali and his impact on black whatever, because, he's done with the black whatever. He put everything out there. He wasn't hiding. He didn't hold back. So there is some significance. There is. Because he's not just some religious guy, like how you look at all the other people. Right? He's definitely an angel for Asiatic people. He's not just some guy that came, because he laid everything out. So we wouldn't be in the situation that we're in right now, gang culture, and boys don't know if they're girls, and girls don't know if they're boys, and that, how far gone we are. Look at all the other people. See how much issues they got in their communities, and then look at ours, and something has to register as there's a problem here. Nobody else goes through these stuff except these certain people. So we're putting it out there, just to put it out there. That's what Noble Drew Ali said. Just so you know what he said. It's real simple. It's not advanced. And even as far as adepts, because even adepts sometimes veer off and they go into oblivion and forget about what Noble Drew Ali brought. Right? Because he laid it down that if you don't have me in front, don't even worry about success in anything. If you're not upholding the principles laid down by your prophet, Noble Drew Ali said, the worst is yet to come. Okay, so worst keeps coming. So isn't that a sign that maybe you should start listening to the prophet? Because worst keeps coming. Nobody else never said that the worst is yet to come if you don't listen to me. Nobody else said that. As far as leaders, nobody. He's the only one. So use your common sense. You don't stub your toe 5 times on the same stuff if you use your common sense. What shall we call him? What shall we call him? So often, our various journalists find trouble in selecting the proper name for the Moorish American. Just tell me what your nationality is. Not even keeping no secret from you. Just telling you. This is in the newspaper. This is a newspaper article that would be in the Moorish Guide newspaper. Telling these people they're Moorish American. Doesn't that mean that you can't buy that now? If Noble Drew Ali said you're Moorish American, how's somebody gonna sell you an idea that you're more when Noble Drew Ali already told you that you're that? Yeah, but why not? He's the prophet. Who else should tell you? Who else should let you know about your ancient legacy that you don't know about because of black leaders not telling? Some say Negro, you hear black leaders use that. Others will brand him race man, and still another would call him Afro American. And then comes colored, dark American, coon, shine, the brethren, and your folks. It is needed a hard matter. It is indeed a hard matter to find something suitable for the various occasions where a title needs to be used. Is it that these people have no proper name? Did they have a national name when first brought to these shores in the early part of the 17th century? Okay? Brought to these shores. Brought to these shores. Did they have a proper name when they were brought to these shores? What was their name before they came over here? If so, what was it? Did not the land from which they were forced have a name? It now appears a good idea for those whose duty it is to write for the various journals to find out what the national name of the forefathers of these people was. Remember, this is Moorish Guide newspaper going to everybody. Considers themselves Negro, black, colored, whatever. Shine, coon. What is the national name of these people who were brought to these shores forefathers? It's like we're saying, if everybody's national, down with this. If you're telling me you came over here on a slave ship and you can't tell me what nation you came from over there, then how you can't make up something that you just want to call yourself today because you feel like calling yourself that. What's the national name of the forefathers? As far as we're concerned, we're Moorish American because our forefathers, foremothers are Moroccans. No, don't look over there. Over this side. Moroccans here. Not Moroccans over there. Moroccans here. That's what my ancient foremothers were. We got a flag here. It's been here for 10 to 50,000 years. Got a national headdress that you're going to go to Easter Island. They got it in stone. You go to BC. They got a totem telling people, welcome, with the fez on. So we have historical connection to something that you can see today to know that we're ancient people. We're not just came on the scene of some slave boats. And these people would never prove their free national name. And why? Because their black leaders taught them that it doesn't matter what you call yourself. Oh, it matters. Just go check the stats. And you know who's adept for stats? Claude Anderson. And he'll give you all the stats of where how black people are failing. And where other nations are doing something with what they have. Because it's a direct attack on a people for them to be absent-minded of their national origin. If you know not your national origin, so like Garvey said, it's like a tree without roots. Just a stump laying there. Just a stump for people to use whatever, put their foot on it, tie their shoe, stop, take a seat, run, jump over it, kick it, use that as firewood, whatever. It's a stump. Has no status. It's not tied to nature. Natural law does not apply to it. So as we go through things that Noble Drew Ali laid down, keep in mind, remember that he's speaking to nations of the world. He is not limiting his dialogue to people in the so-called black, Negro, colored, whatever position. He's dealing with the world. Right? And remember, again, Elder, Adam, C. Freeman L. told you that all these people seen this man with the red fez and didn't stop and say anything. They didn't stop and say anything. They seen the guy with the red fez and said nothing, didn't ask a question about it, they just continued on their way. And then we're here today suffering and want to know how come, why is this happening to our people? Because they denied the prophet. Indirectly, not your fault. I mean, the black leader's fault. But ignorance of the law is no excuse. So lace it up and keep moving. Also, look into the history of the founders of civilization and see who they were and where they stood in the building of the present civilization. Probably 2 hours in an up-to-date library would serve to relieve the strain on your men of letters. 2 hours in an up-to-date library. All it takes to know thyself, according to Noble Drew Ali, is 2 hours in an up-to-date library researching the founders, the history of the founders of civilization. And see where they stood in the building of present civilization. Real simple. And not too many people have did their 2-hour pilgrimage to the library. Because if they did, there wouldn't be any arguments about what's your free national name. Oh, Moors, because that's the name that we fell in. That's the name that we were last known as to the world. That's the last name we were known as collectively to the world. And remember, they're always talking about extinguishing the light. When they banished the Moors from Spain. Yeah, but how come nobody's not drawing attention to these people in the Americas who they met here after they vanquished the Moors from Spain. Why he brings up these people over here? All they bring up is, oh yeah, there was guys here when Christopher Columbus came here, and then yeah, we started the United States of America and all that stuff. Hold on a second, what are you guys jumping ahead? 2 hours. And what is it now? People, just like Grand Sheik Nature, put it on the record, right? That Moors got lazy now because they got computer and internet to look up stuff and don't go to the library anymore and stack up the books and study in the library, which in this day and time, fezzes going into libraries and stuff like that is going to draw some attention from people who like to go to libraries, because library is common place where nations use. Only nations. That's why in the beginning he's talking Moorish Americans, because the first issue of his status. So being the first issue status, remember, this is something going across the world, letting people know that there's these people called Moorish American, and nobody knows their name, even though he just told them. Right? The matter of the various names given to these 22 million people with all colors of every race of the globe was an act of European psychology. They gave him a name, then defined it as something inferior to theirs. White they defined as a color of purity. Black, they say, represents everything evil. The Negro, as they were called in this nation, has no nation to which they might look with pride. Their history starts with the close of the Civil War, or more properly, with his being forced to serve someone else. Laying it all out. The Negro, as they were called in this nation, documented fact, nothing that these people can argue. And then Negro means black when translated to English. So when they say that I'm black, they're really saying I'm Negro. The Negro, as they were called in this nation, has no nation to which they might look with pride. Because there's no such thing as Negro people. So there's no such thing as a Negro nation, black nation, colored nation, African nation. Don't exist. So there's the lack of pride in little brothers today, that they don't know if they're boys, and they want to wear lipstick, and they want to, like try to influence other boys that it's cool to wear halter tops and belly tops, right? No pride. Why? Because they have no idea about the ancient foremothers and forefathers. Why? Because these black leaders keep calling these people black, which the European, through their psychology that Noble Drawley talks about, has taken these words, gave them meanings that are connotative now that we study, we know that, okay, no, that's what's going on. So when these people use these words, they're actually cursing themselves. Because any type of use of words directed at somebody in a mirror, while you're cooking something, any type of use of words is Wicca. Any type of use of words is Wicca, is spells. You're going to get a reaction, whether it's from an individual or from the ethers. you're going to get a reaction when you use certain words. Right? Their history starts with the close of the Civil War. Or more properly, or more properly, with his being forced to serve someone else. Why? Because people don't like you? No, because you call yourself something that you shouldn't be calling yourself, which put you in servitude. Because words have power, and when you direct words, whatever you put out in the ethers, you're going to get a reaction. It's either going to be from an individual, from an animal species, whatever, you're going to get a reply. Put your foot in the ant's nest, you're going to get a response. They're just responding, nothing personal. But that's how they respond when something invades their realm. Thus, he is separated from the illustrious history of his forefathers, who were the founders of the first civilization of the old world. Thus, he separated himself. Our own separated us. And we're going to go into our own to show that the lessons that many people brought, that sincerely in their heart were for the upliftment of their people. Why it wasn't a grand slam in ninth inning, last pitch of the game, is because they were saying black. And they weren't identifying themselves in their free national name. And that free national name is Moorish American / Moor / Moroccan / like Dr. Ben said, African Moor, Arab Moor, Asian Moor / Aboriginal and Indigenous / original man and original woman. All those come under protection by Moor. The ancient Kemetic culture is protected within the word Moor. It's protected. All the ancient civilizations that predated who we think are the founders of civilizations, all their stuff is protected by the Moors. That's just how our position means so much right now. Because everyone knows that we are the torchbearers. It is not groups and these Moors over there, and I saw some Moors down there, and they were claim that you're a Moor. You're tying yourself to the founders of the first civilization of the old world. The new world is new. The old world, you can't. The old world is beyond old. And we have a direct tie to that. But you only have a tie for that if you use the proper name that links all those ancient founding cultures. And the name that does that, as far as Negro black colored people in North America, and the islands are concerned is more. Because everybody else already knows. Like we were talking to at class on Sunday, right? The sister that from Nigeria. And we tell her Fez is in Nigeria, Igbo, she's like, oh yeah. Yeah, that's why I can be here. Because I'm from the continent over there, right? And I'm seeing people exercising my culture here, but they're not classified as the people over there. But they wear this headwear that's just like these people in my country or whatever like that. That's over there. And then people are gonna convince people, black guys always trying to convince people that, Europeans created something that Asiatics are gonna steal. You know, a European could go to the Akashic records and draw down the inspiration and call it the Aquarian Gospel, but Noble Drew Ali plagiarized from some European. This is the black guys stuff. This is the black guys stuff. That's how they talk. Pseudo scholarship. And we're giving you reference, Noble Drew Ali. He's telling you that it's European psychology and everything. Since 1913. Why are people still talking about psychology of European today? We should be doing more things as a community. And we have documented proof that the brothers from the East that Noble Drew Ali said, as soon as you say that you're Moor, you go to them, they're going to be game to work with you about anything that you want to do. Things like that are in place. There are those connections that they're ecstatic to know that we know about our nationality and our birthrights. Right? Prophet makes a plea to the nation. Our divine and national movement stands for the specific grand principles of love, truth, peace, freedom, and justice. And I, the Prophet, am applying to all loyal, faithful Moors, members, and the American citizens to help me in my great uplifting acts of uplifting fallen humanity among the Asiatic race and nation. For I have suffered much and severely in the past through misunderstanding of what the movement was dedicated to. Now this is March 1929. So this is months before he's out of here. And he's telling people took this wrong. But he also prophesied that, future generations are who are going to make some sense of my work. It's going to take you 50 years to find out what I did today. Well, 50 years after him is our time. 50 years after him is our time. That, Noble Drew Ali, who's that? Let me go check this man out, see who this individual is. You try and again, you know what I mean? Information at your fingertips. So hey, you know what I mean? Take advantage of it. Typing up Noble Drew Ali, all this stuff coming up, all these individuals coming up. You listen to some of the stuff these people are talking, and it's causing you to start thinking again. And you start getting the vibrations in your body and all that, because you realize that something's going on. All that stuff the black leaders took away from you, because they want you to think they're your savior. They're the ones that's going to get you out of this mess that they got you into. They got you in this mess, calling you Negro, black, colored, African, all this other BS. But then, when it's time to do whatever, they got state documents with European name on it, and they don't reserve their rights on those contracts or anything. They're just going around. You know what I mean? You can go look up even the credit cards that Zadok L used that just had the name only, straw name, signature. No all rights reserved, nothing. You got all these videos out that you're more, and then ain't no all rights reserved on that contract. Now he went in, right? He went in. It is the great God Allah alone that guides the destiny of this divine and national movement. It's the great God alone that guides this. It's the great God Allah alone that guides the destiny of the Moorish movement. Divine and national movement. Excuse me. Right? Divine and national movement. You hear Moorish Science Temple mentioned in there? Moorish Holy Temple of Science? Divine and national movement. Allah guides that. So if Allah is in your heart and then you met him, then anything that you do following the principles laid down by Noble Drew Ali, who's a thought of Allah, would be guided by Allah and would be successful. You don't need charter for that. You don't need to print national ID cards up for that. You don't need to sell paperwork for that. You don't need to tell people $500 for consultation for that. Right? This is birthrights. People's birthright. That Moors are going to go all the way all across the world trying to get charters and trying to get authority because, the Grand Major Temple, Temple number 1, didn't Noble Drew Ali tell you Allah alone guides this? What are you talking about? Different temples and stuff like that. What are you talking about? If you're talking about Moorish Science Temple, well, you already know that that's corruption. You talk about Moorish Holy Temple of Science, you already know that very few exercise under that jurisdiction. Very few exercise under that jurisdiction. Because, Moorish Science Temple jurisdiction is going to tell you that Moorish Holy Temple of Science, that don't exist, Prophet dissolved that and it's Moorish Science Temple of America now. Right? And then don't even talk about Old Canaanite Temple. Where is that at? There's not even one of those in existence still. But did that get dissolved? What happened to Old Canaanite Temple? Now, again, because there's corruption, right? You're going to be extremely selective of where you go as far as quote-unquote Moorish Science Temple of America is concerned. Because 99% of the Moors, 99% of the Moors who don't live in Canaan land but are part of Canaan land's temple or members of Canaan land's temple or associates, acquaintances, whatever of the Moorish Science Temple of America in Canaanland is because the temple that they went to, where they live at, were doing some church or selling packages or some madness. So we know that there's infiltration. And there's very few people classified as Moorish Science Temple that you can trust. The Moors don't want to see that, you know. Moors want to keep thinking that, you know, all across the board everybody's straight and right and, you know, following the principles. No, not really. Because if that was the case, you would be getting all these prophet makes pleas and all that stuff in your meetings that some of them conveniently call service. And they want to say, you know, they're with the prophet and all that stuff, but, you know, they got service going on, you know. It is the great God alone, Allah, that guides the destiny of this divine and national movement. I know all true American citizens are identified by national descent names to answer and apply to the free national constitution of this free national republic of the United States of America. Okay. He's giving you reference points. In 1913, giving you reference points. Republic. Right? Republic. Not democracy. Republic. That's why I am calling on all true national citizens. That's why I'm calling on all true national citizens. I'm not calling on stateless people. I'm not calling on adjectives, continents, colors people. Coons, shines, jigaboos. I'm not calling on none of them. I'm only calling on national citizens. Why? Because national citizens have a foundation of constitutional, universal, nature, or natural law. All citizens, all across the world, that's their foundation. And they don't stray from the foundation. That's why I am calling on all true national citizens to help me morally and financially in my great work I am doing to help this national government. For without a free national name, with a descent flag of your forefathers, there is not a national divine title of government in which we live. This is from your true and divine prophet unto all American and foreign sympathizers. For without a free national name, with a descent flag of your forefathers, there is not a national divine title of the government in which we live. So you need nationality. And again, when we go back and we check, you know, the champions in the so-called conscious black community with regard to rights and making sure, quote unquote, black people get due what they should get, right? All of them eventually start leaning to constitutional arguments, treaty arguments, all of them. But they're doing it in the status of black, so it doesn't work, it fails. Legitimate claims. Like Claude Anderson's going to Supreme Court with legitimate claims, but they have to keep appealing. because the status. But they want to reach their people where they are. But that's not the law arena. That's not the military mindset. Military mindset is nationality's order of the day, right? The nations are at war with nations, right? As we reflect on all of the so-called black leaders that were assassinated, killed, whatever, it's all because they started talking constitutional and national and started waking up people to the fact that they have some type of identity that they need to look into. And because half of these people, in order to live colonial occupation, that take jobs or whatever, working for certain institutions, whatever, that, they might not have wanted to, but, doing that, they were able to put out their book and they were able to, so they were trying their best. But the issue of identity and it not being talked about, but then the concepts, again, continuing to bring up Claude Anderson, because if, and they've been emailed and all that stuff, no replies and all that, so it's not even like, we're fighting it, right? But from a principles perspective, what they're presenting at the Harvest Institute, from a principles perspective, that's where black people have to be at. But then again, we're going back to that same thing, that there was already forerunners. Ain't no prophet coming. Prophet already came. So everybody who's pushing this ideal of nationhood, black people unite, or whatever, they're a forerunner for somebody who came already. That's all they are. Because there's nobody coming that's gonna, be a savior. That individual already came. And he gave the people their birthright, their nationality, title to their vast estate. And it's up to them to start making claims. Or continue to suffer. In in getting our people, when we deal with them, when we engage them, right? The biggest weapon we have is their own stuff. You know how many black power Pan-African people started studying Moors because Khalid came out and said, I'm a Moor? And that they want to find out more about this is because, they rep Khalid Muhammad. You know what I mean? Like they sincerely loved him or whatever. They're asking questions about because he used his influence and said what he said. You know what I mean? Like we talk about, you realize what um, Tookie even was doing, writing books and all this type of stuff, right? Well, we're doing what? Change the mindset. If a gangbanger saying it, I mean, how you not gonna go with it? The gangbanger saying it, right? Using their influence in ways to direct people. Because remember, we're far past gone. So any good that anybody does, you know what I mean? High honors and praises to you for at least doing some good. Because good's been done for these people since 1913 when they got their nationality back. And people have constantly pulled them away from that reality into illusions. And then people come and again, Claude Anderson, right? He's coming and telling these people, you know that free blacks and so called Indians were in the Trail of Tears. You have um, Moors. Just put up the clip again of the Moor in his family that he lives next to a reserve. And when the people come off the reserve, there's no distinction between them as far as how they look. And these people are so called Indians that are on a reserve. And he's a black guy. And then there's these people that look like him that's on the reserve. So the gig is up. It's just our Negro black color people gonna realize what's going on. So we wanna continually use their stuff just to show them that they've been told by their leaders what the problem is and then how to solve it. And remember that everybody who is for the liberation of our people, anybody, right? Whatever they're presenting to the people is eventually going to lead to what Noble Drew Ali told these people from 1913 to 1929. Anybody after 1929 that speaks on behalf of liberating our people, Asiatics in North America, those individuals are forerunners of Noble Drew Ali. They're not forerunners of somebody who's gonna come. You think it's a fluke or coincidence that Malcolm X took a name, Malik El Shabazz? Of all the names that he can take, that one with L in it? But all the Rastafarians know that Charles Edwards corrected his name to Emmanuel. Why Emmanuel? Why a name with that title on it? What point are they trying to make? What message are they trying to send to the people who are so-called their followers? But the people don't follow their black leaders that brought them what they need for them to eventually bump into a Moor, and then everything's going to make sense as soon as you talk to a Moor if you have a concept of Claude Anderson. If you have a concept of who we're going to talk about today, whose book we're going to go into today, Amos Wilson. If you have a concept, right? Because remember, when we talk about, Richard King, Amos Wilson, these people, we're talking about people who like came in order to organize our people to realize certain things for themselves. Because these are our doctors. These aren't some outside people telling us or whatever. These are our people telling us psychologically how we can fix our situations. And they don't feel shy to use a European source, like some people, European, that's the European stuff, right? We taught them, like we keep saying. So we'll use their own stuff. We're going to put some things on the record from the good Dr. Amos Wilson, right? From his critically acclaimed book that all the black guys have, Blueprint for Black Power. The blueprint for it. Okay? The blueprint for it. And we'll go to chapter 31. Crisis of leadership. Crisis of leadership. And specifically, black leadership. Leaders and followers. Oh yeah, and we are going to be editing, right? Putting things in their proper status. So we can be clear what kind of message he's sending to people if they think when they read these revelations from people who are classified as black, but Allah had different plans for them and spoke through them so the people could get the message. In our beginning chapters, we contended, in line with the consensus of many other students of power, that power is created, defined, and sustained by organized relationships between persons and between groups. James McGregor Burns defined the primary basis of social power thusly: power is a relationship among persons. He goes on to say, to define power not as a property or entity or possession, but as a relationship in which two or more persons tap motivational bases in one another and bring varying resources to bear in the process, is to perceive power as drawing a vast range of human behavior into its orbit. The arena of power is no longer the exclusive preserve of a power elite or an establishment or persons clothed with legitimacy. Power is ubiquitous. It permeates human relationships. It exists whether or not it is quested for. It is the glory and the burden of most of humanity. Thus, according to Burns, social power is in essence collective and involves two essentials intentionally, i.e. purpose, motive, and resources. Power then involves dynamic relationships between power holders and power recipients and the motives and resources they utilize in their efforts to achieve mutual or individual goals. Our concerns in this brief chapter is with the intentionalities and resources of a particular class of power holders, i.e. African American leaders, and their relationships to the African American community, and whether their interaction with it leads to its empowerment or disempowerment. For our purposes herein, we shall follow Burns' description of leadership. Leadership over human beings is exercised when persons with certain motives and purposes mobilize in competition or conflict with others, institutional, political, psychological, and other resources so as to arouse, engage, and satisfy the motives of followers. This is done in order to realize goals mutually held by both leaders and followers, as in Lenin's call for peace, bread, and land. In brief, leaders with motive and power bases tap followers' motives in order to realize the purposes of both leaders and followers. Not only must motivation be relevant, as in power generally, but its purpose must be realized and satisfied. Leadership is exercised in a condition of conflict or competition in which leaders contend in appealing to the motive basis of potential followers. Leaders are a particular kind of power holder. Like power, leadership is relational, collective, and purposeful. Leadership shares with power the central function of achieving purpose. The crucial variable again is purpose. The crucial variable is purpose. Now, what greater a purpose than uplifting fallen humanity? What greater a purpose than realizing that humanity has fallen and needs a hand? This is why Noble Drew Ali is our leader. Because he hit the nail on the head as far as the crucial variable to qualify leadership. Mind you, we're talking 100 years later, where his lessons still apply today. Because the people still have mental slavery that he had come to get rid of. And the only reason that it exists still is because of your black leaders. All of them. Some repented. Some still playing people. Why? Because they're listening to people who aren't leaders. Because the people who claim to be leaders do not try to uplift fallen humanity. The people that are qualified or classified as leaders amongst our people are only about lifting up our people. That's why they always fail. Because if the founders of civilization don't realize how important they are to the structure of everything else around them, if the nucleus doesn't know that it's the nucleus, nothing else has a chance. The disease would take over his body. The crucial variable is purpose. And Noble Drew Ali laid the purpose down. Uplifting fallen humanity. Being humanitarian. The purpose. There's no purpose worth pursuing more than making sure that the people who are downtrodden aren't downtrodden. Making sure that those who don't have a little bit more. At the risk of you losing everything or gaining more because you gave up something. Drew Ali knew exactly what he was talking about. European Amos Wilson chose to use as a reference point. Go look him up. James McGregor Burns, and see some stuff that he's writing on to realize why Dr. Amos Wilson would use this European as a reference. Right? Not every Moor is your brother, and not every European is your enemy. We argue here that the crisis of the African American and Pan African communities as a whole are one with the crisis of leadership of those communities. Moreover, we contend that these cries of leadership flow from its intellectual and ideological bankruptcy, its wrong-headed sense of purpose or intentionality, its inability to recognize and articulate the fundamental needs of its followers, and its impaired ability to pragmatically satisfy those needs if they were recognized and articulated. Black leadership, as presently constituted, precisely operates against the most basic interests of the African community. It is therefore unwittingly allied with other inimical forces arrayed against the community. It is imperative that this leadership be razed from its ideological foundation so that a new leadership structure capable of realizing the needs of the African community can be constructed on its ruins. Essentially, a crisis of leadership occurs when the intentions and needs of leadership are severely mismatched with those of its followers. The intentions of leadership are to a significant degree indicated by its ideological orientations or attitudes in addition to its behavioral history. So you can see that the European psychology of infiltration of our organizations is to create this false sense of history of these organizations. Because, like we say, when we look at what's presented by Moors opposed to everybody else, only a Moor, as long as I've been conscious, only a Moor presented the fact that the NAACP comes out of the Niagara movement. Only a Moor. Right? So if the history of something is tainted, right? Because remember, they're talking about behavioral history. So you're talking about the actions that took place, the behavior of this so-called association, organization, whatever, when they're engaging the public. And when people refer to Moor Science Temple, more so now than ever before, people have their, little radars up and stuff like that, thinking twice about whether this is what is this, and they never seen these headwears before, only on Masons, and right? Because the behavioral history of the organization was tainted by infiltration to have people be skeptical of it, right? Which, just like they say, don't judge a book by its cover. If you're judging the Moorish movement by what you've seen some dirty Moors do, or from what you've seen are direct attacks unknowing to the not seeing learner, that certain things were done to get people to think that this doesn't have any legitimacy. When it's represented by a flag that is 10 to 50,000 years old. And every time we show that flag, people are talking about Morocco in Africa, which is a kingdom. And Moors never ever called themselves kingdom. We always called themselves empire. But in order for there to be a kingdom, there has to be an empire. So when people make pseudo scholar arguments that there's no proof of the Moroccan empire, well, if there's a kingdom, there has to be an empire. There's no kingdom that there's no empire. If you're saying that there's a kingdom, then there has to be an empire. You can't have a kingdom without an empire. It just doesn't work that way. The cry for leadership. The cry for new leadership. 40 years after the United States Supreme Court outlawed segregation of the races in America's schools, supposedly in the interest of providing African Americans with equal education through racial integration, the majority of black students find themselves hyper-segregated in urban ghetto schools and trapped in an education system in severe crisis and in imminent danger of total collapse. 40 years after blacks in Montgomery, Alabama won the right to ride in the front of the bus, blacks in urban America are virtually the only ones, along with other forlorn minorities, riding the buses. Buses to nowhere. 30 years after gaining the right to vote, having benefited from passage of the great 1964 Voting Rights Act, blacks in urban and rural America vote for black politicians who cannot improve their plight. They can vote for the President of the United States, the only problem being that their urban votes are no longer crucially influential in determining who will be elected president. Why are their votes not crucially influential? They show them that in Florida. Status is stateless, vote doesn't count. Sorry, don't take it personal, but vote doesn't count. No, it's not racism, it's not prejudice, nothing like that. Your status is Negro black colored, so your vote doesn't count. Real simple. That's all that it is. In anything, in any venue, any jurisdiction, that's how it's gonna go. Okay? And remember that this is Dr. Claude Anderson, right? Using black all the time. African American, black students, blacks here, blacks this and that. But he recognized that the only problem being that their urban votes are no longer. So that means at one time you did have the power to vote. At one time you were in the seat of power where your influence was so crucial that it determined who could be president in this country. Same thing Noble Drew Ali asked. Before, these people started calling themselves niggers. Before, they started calling themselves Slavic and whatever else they want to call themselves. Didn't they have a name? Didn't the land that they come from have a name? Didn't their forefathers of the land that they came from have a name? So how they just cross the sea or whatever and come here and have no name? Because they didn't say that they took their name on the boat coming over here. They said that they took their name when they got here. When they came here, that's when they lost their culture. They didn't lose their culture on the boat, lying down, stacked up on each other. They lost their culture when they came here. There's a lot of work that these people need to do. And it, it would be, it will be good, you know, if they would just do what's right and tell these people the truth. How much fork-tongued people you see? How much people you see and talk about, yeah, they're Moors, and then next week they're Kemetic, whatever, and then the week after that they're something else, and then the other week after that they're something else. But they say that they're assisting in raising their people's consciousness. Calling people black is assisting people in raising their consciousness. Calling them Negro and calling them African. Well, you call people nigger. Yeah, well, that's what they want to be. I'm not no nigger. I got a nationality. I'm Moorish American, Cujo Aduel. I don't know what other people talking about. Whatever they're on, that's their business. But common sense should teach them better that everybody in the world that says that they belong to a nation, they have a nationality. It should be common theme so we can get to this. Done with this if everybody has a nationality. If everybody doesn't have a nationality in this, it's garbage. You don't have to even take pictures. Stop wasting film on crap. So the people have to have a nationality if they're going to be tied to a nation. And then you can't have, you know, people taking pictures talking about nationhood and then, you know, talking against the nation that they just took a picture in, saying that they're united. You know, under the guise of, oh well, some stuff I just don't agree with, because there's no facts to prove that. Just go to the Library of Congress. All the facts are in there. It's not no secret about who the Moors are. Only people that it's secret to and they don't know and they want proof of the Moors is black leaders. Everybody else knows what we're talking about. Everybody knows what we're talking about. I can tell you, put on a fez. Just put on a fez, black guy. Black guy, here's a challenge. Challenge for all the black guys, black conscious guys, whatever. Right? Put on a fez. And just say you're more. Just go to some stores. Go to some Arabic stores. All those Arab stores where you call, sand niggers and stuff like that. And they stole your stuff and all that stuff. Just go in some of those stores with fez on. Some of these Indian stores and all that stuff. And, even some European stores. And see if you get treated differently when you have a fez on. Opposed to when you go in there, when you're normal, it doesn't matter what you call yourself, status. Let's go buy a fez. It's only $30. Let's go buy a fez. And just put a fez on. Walk around. Document that for a day. And come back with what happened when you wore a fez. How much people ran up to you, want to take pictures and ask you questions about whatever. Right? Everything was laid down. Are you recognizing, look what this brother did. The blueprint for Black Power, okay? Right? This is what he did. Right? The good doctor, Amos Wilson. Right? That's what he did for the black guys. Think they honor him and they're gonna go support and fix their problem out here? Nope. They want to play games with people's birthright. and play games. But remember that the road to righteousness is not some, you know, skating rink or whatever. It's uphill stuff, you know, you need boots, you know what I mean, unlaced Timbs on this terrain that we're going on. You know, and it ain't happening. Either we're gonna represent as a people united with a nationality, or all the stuff continues on. You know what I mean? And Moors will be doing what they do, making progress amongst themselves for Moorish Americans, right? You know, like we can say whatever about is there, which way is it, you know, naturalize or nationalize or pay for it or whatever. All of it is just part of what happens in nationhood. It's still a nation because, you know, Moors do have toilet paper that they're distributing. Whoever the manufacturers, they're looking at them as Moors. Guaranteed. They don't know about whether it's ink, Moorish Science Temple, Moorish Movement, Moorish. They look at them as Moorish nationals, and that's what they look at them as. Other Moors, Moors that go down put on their nationality card from get taxes off. You know, oh yeah, they're from the temple of whatever Moors. No, that's right. So make sure, keep in mind, right, that this is birthright. Keep in mind, this is tied to ancient foremothers and forefathers, thousands of years before we were even a thought this existed. It's been around. So we're just gonna go to the Aquarian Gospel, you know, that Noble Drawley plagiarized from, right? Because he couldn't get to the Akashic records. He's Asiatic, but you know, a European was able to get to the Akashic records, extract this information from the Akashic records, and then Noble Drawley plagiarized that. So let's see what the plagiarizing lessons are. You know, he plagiarized. Okay, sure, but what's the lesson? Let's get a lesson out of this plagiarized work, and let's see if, you know, maybe it was worth plagiarizing it. You know what I mean? Maybe there was some stuff in there that he was giving to Europeans that Noble Drawley is like, hold on a second, you're giving Europeans all that? I'll plagiarize this so my people can have this too. So we're going to go to the Holy Quran of the Moorish Science Temple, right? The plagiarized, divinely prepared book. Chapter 3, Unity of Life. Unity of life. Not unity of organization, group, unity of black people, unity of life. Why? Because everybody has it. They're thinking, they're disabled, whatever, you know, life, crippled or something, still got life. Blind, deaf, got life still. Unity of life. Elihu's lesson. Again, Elihu met his pupils in the sacred grove and said, no man live unto himself, for every living thing is bound by cords to every other living thing. Blessed are the pure in heart, for they will love and not demand love in return. They will not do to other men what they would not have other men do unto them. There are two selves, the higher and lower self. The higher self is human spirit clothed with soul, made in the form of Allah. The lower self is the carnal self. The body of desires is a reflection of the higher self. distorted by the murky ethers of the flesh. And so letting you know that higher self has nothing to do with no body or nothing like that. Right? Because the lower self, the carnal self, is a reflection of the higher self, distorted by the murky ethers of the flesh. So without the flesh, there's no distortion. Which, puts you in a different frame of mind now. So higher self, no flesh. Lower self is only manifesting because of flesh. The lower self is an illusion and will pass away. The higher self is Allah in man and will not pass away. The higher self is the embodiment of truth. The lower self is truth reversed, and so is falsehood manifest. The lower self is truth reversed. So once truth is reversed, or once man goes from being his higher self to his lower self, that's when falsehood is manifest. Falsehood is only manifest when man is on their lower self. The higher self is justice, mercy, love, and right. The lower self is what the higher self is not. The lower self breeds hatred, slander, lewdness, murders, theft, and everything that harms. The higher self is the mother of virtues and the harmonies of life. The lower self is rich in promises, but poor in blessedness and peace. It offers pleasure, joy, and satisfying gain, but gives unrest, misery, and death. Lessons. Right? Why shouldn't this be plagiarized and given to every Asiatic of North America? Why not? This is very, or these are very important lessons that everybody should know, regardless of what nationality they are. This should be lessons that they know, so they can distinguish how they're supposed to live in humanity. How does humanity govern themselves? Everybody governs themselves by their higher self. As soon as you start having lower self stuff or whatever like that, check yourself. And if you're not going to check yourself, then, whatever goes down, because, the first principle is love. Right? And for our people, this is one of the most important lessons that they didn't get and don't get. The lesson of the higher self and the lower self. What manifests from what? Like he's laying it all out. What manifests from the higher self? What you can look forward to if you exist in the higher self. And what you could look forward to if you exist in the lower self. And go on your way. Again, about the lower self. It gives men apples that are lovely to the eye and pleasant to the smell. Their cores are full of bitterness and gall. If you would ask what to study, I would say yourselves. And you well have studied them, and then would ask me what to study next, I would reply yourselves. He who knows well his lower self knows the illusions of the world, knows of the things that will pass away, and he knows his higher self, knows Allah, knows well the things that cannot pass away. Thrice blessed is a man who has made purity and love his very own. He has been ransomed from the perils of the lower self and is himself his higher self. So you can be your higher self. You can be in the flesh and exist as your higher self, which is where they want us to be, because they laid it all down, and all we were waiting for was the lesson on nationality. And as soon as you get that lesson, everything else is supposed to be clear to you. And then you're supposed to realize that you're supposed to be working in harmony with all these other higher self people for the upliftment of your nation. And you're doing it because it's your purpose. Because your leader told you that we're supposed to be uplifting fallen humanity. It's very laid out for us. Very clear as to where we are going. Again, thrice blessed is the man who has made purity and love his very own. He has been ransomed from the perils of the lower self and is himself his higher self. Men seek salvation from an evil that deem a living monster of the netherworld, and they have gods that are but demons in disguise, all powerful, yet full of jealousy and hate and lust, whose favors must be bought with costly sacrifice of fruits and of the lives of birds and animals and humankind. And yet these gods possess no ears to hear, no eyes to see, no heart to sympathize, no power to save. This evil is a myth. These gods are made of air and clothed with shadows of a thought. The only devil from which man must be redeemed is self. The only devil that man must be redeemed is self. So if man doesn't redeem himself from his devil, don't talk about no devils out there that's doing something to you. Because more than likely they're doing that to you because you haven't suppressed your devil. So the fact that your devil is even still functioning puts them on high alert. Because the worst devil is the black devil, if you didn't know. You know, the pale devil. The dark-skinned devil, that's the worst devil ever. You on your lower self, Asiatic, black man, the world ain't ready for that yet. The only devil from which men must be redeemed is self, the lower self. If man would find his devil, he must look within. His name is self. If man would find his savior, he must look within. And when the demon self has been dethroned, the savior love will be exalted to the throne of power. The David of the light is purity, who slays the strong Goliath of the dark. The seats the Savior love upon the throne. Okay. So let's just see what questions or whatever we got. We got 2. So the first one is an article. Question: I was wondering if you knew anyone who if you knew anyone knew what really happened. I was talking to someone I work with about not paying taxes, and they presented this article. I know you can't believe everything that you read. Right? So we got this article. Now once again, gonna put it out there for the Moors. Make sure in your activity that every single chance that you get engaging engaging with the colonists, do not in any circumstances let them classify you as sovereign citizen. Do not let them tie you to um, debt elimination schemes or free man on the land or anything like that. We've already told you what your nationality is, so you don't need to be making up stuff to claim that that's who you are. You don't need to be throwing in some, things that sound good for the. Okay? This is old, but I mean, people always panic when they hear about, quote unquote, Moors in the news or in media or whatever. Right? Um, so the article is called Sovereign Citizen Given 7 years in Prison. And it's about Sharon Phillips, who was sentenced to 7 years for filing multi-billion-dollar liens on top court officials. Now, keep in mind that the individuals that we are dealing with, engaging, speaking about, they are not officials. They are hired help. When someone is hired, they're not official. Right? 2, multi-billion-dollar liens. Moors liens on people is not your jurisdiction. Liens on people is human trafficking. You're not a human trafficker. You're not a human trafficker. So don't think that these people are going to let you get away with human trafficking when you're trying to charge them with human trafficking. Deal with law. You hit the ball on that side, it's going to get hit back. Is your wrist strong to return what's hit back? Phillips, a devotee of the sovereign citizen movement, right? So this thing is a movement that you do not want any type of connection, tie, relation to. There should be applauding defiance when these people try to classify you as some sovereign citizen. Okay? Because that is a fraudulent position for anybody. Because there's no such thing as a sovereign citizen, just like there's no such thing as a black man or a white man. It's not a real thing. So you can't make it real. It's fiction. Sovereignty comes from nations. Phillips, a devotee of the sovereign citizen movement that doesn't accept court rules, told U.S. judge right now again, you know, court rules. Those places, if they're not Article 3 jurisdiction, they are not courts. They are administrative jurisdictions to handle the affairs of human trafficking. Right? All they're about is their fiat. They don't care about rights. They don't care about law. They'll tell you that they're quasi, which is a signal to let you know that they're a fraud. Right? And then when you go through the article, right? Phillips, who calls herself River Talibai, was convicted by jury in relation to a federal official for filing bogus maritime liens, right? So when you start hearing those stuff, maritime and admiralty and redemption package and all that stuff right there, stay away from those things. Those things do not, do not, do not, do not have anything to do with Moors. Just like drug dealing and selling guns doesn't have nothing to do with Moors. Illegal, guns. Right? Right? Just not right and exact. But again, leaders who are Moors. Sure, she was following somebody. What was the purpose, though? Like good European brought to our attention. That the most important thing before you decide, hey, I'm going to follow this guy, what's their purpose? What's their agenda? And you'll find out that a lot of people's agendas are warped. Because everybody wants to be the savior of the black people. When that was done already, Noble Drew Ali did that. You can't recreate the wheel. So stop trying to front like you guys are the ones that's going to do something. You're not the one. One is going to be that little brother or sister that takes this and does something with it on a broad scale. Right? Do not let these people stray you away from your birthright. One, with these little article craps that they write where they, basically just victimize people who are not competent to be doing what it is that they claim that they're doing. But be mindful. Be very mindful of people who conveniently don't mention Noble Drew Ali. Conveniently don't mention him. Be mindful of them people. Now, I don't know if this is real or what, but this one was interesting. Islam Brother Kudro, and happy winter solstice to all the Moors in Canaanland. I was sent this article by text by an unconscious Moor who seemed very excited and vowed to get his, until I told him we're not descendants of slaves. I haven't heard back from him. What are your thoughts on the article? Many thanks, peace, Sister Holgate L. and that's the Moors in AKA Great Britain. So, article: Supreme Court grants black man 40 acres of land and a mule. The Supreme Court of the United States has granted, this is on December 11th, 2015. The Supreme Court of the United States has granted to the Georgian slave descendant Abraham Brown 40 acres of land and a mule in a historical decision that could affect thousands of African Americans. So you already see that the jurisdiction that they're corralling to come get their 40 acres. All right. The 61-year-old man filed a lawsuit against the federal government in 2011 accusing the United States of violating their obligations to his ancestor who died in 1891. His great-grandfather, Elijah Brown, along with 18,000 other freed slaves who had fought for the Union in the American Civil War, had been promised 40 acres of land and a mule by the U.S. Army in 1865, but never receiving anything. By the narrow 5-4 vote, 5-4, the Supreme Court ruled that the U.S. government had to hold the promise made to these 18,000 freed slaves by granting the promised acreage and animals to their descendants. "This is the best day of my life," Mr. Brown told reporters as he left the courtroom. "Justice has finally been done after all these years. My great-grandfather can finally rest in peace." The Supreme Court decision is based on military orders issued during the American Civil War. The orders dealing specifically with the freed slaves are called Special Field Orders No. 15 and were issued by General William Tecumseh Sherman, commander of the Military Division of the Mississippi of the United States Army, on January 16, 1865. They provided for the confiscation of 400,000 acres of land along the Atlantic coast of South Carolina, Georgia, and Florida, and the dividing of it into parcels of not more than 40 acres, on which were to be settled approximately 18,000 freed slave families and other blacks then living in the area. All right, so you guys got their 40 acres and a mule. Oh, and then, of course, you got the spokesman coming up. They always just happen to come up when stuff's going on with these people. The NAACP, who supported M. Brown throughout all the court procedures, saluted the decision of the Supreme Court. "Finally, the American government has decided to hold the promise it made long ago to the African American people," said Reverend Charles White. "This is far from compensation for all the wrongdoings that have been done to us, but it's certainly a step in the right direction." The NAACP leader also called for a class action suit, noting that more than 120,000 Americans are direct descendants of these slaves. Interesting choice of words by the Reverend. Interesting. So let's see how much Moors denationalized themselves to go get their 40 acres. Because they could have, I'm just saying, if they reevaluate 40 acres and a mule from that time to now, Should have probably been more than 40 acres and a mule by now. I mean, it's really interesting that 2015 now, and they're still talking about 40 acres and a mule. And he's happy, it's the best day of his life that he got 40 acres and a mule. Well, I guess if you had 0 acres because you're stateless, 40 acres is, you know, it's a lot. So we just want to close out with the prophet's words again. People to, to the prophet, you did more than you imagine. For real, for real. You did do more than you imagine. And it's important that you don't do like all the black leaders and pass him by in the street. You can't do him like how they did him. You know what I mean? And if we're not going to pass him in the street, we might as well take in some of what he presented to us. Because what he presented is supposed to make our life easier. It's supposed to make our life easier. But, we got work to do. We definitely got work to do. Savior of humanity. In this electrified age, men are racing into this life without complete knowledge of where they are going or what the end will be. When riches seem to be their only pursuit to be obtained, anyway and at any cost. When selfishness, avarice, greed, and lust dominate their very being. When humanity in general is left at the mercy of those who have no mercy in them. It is truly wonderful and astounding to see one come into this mad human drama for the sole purpose of saving humanity, losing all sight on those things worldly and yielding absolutely to a cause higher than has ever yet been attained. This picture is the likeness of Prophet Noble Drew Ali, who is serving humanity, coming as he does with a message for the nations, in somewhat the same manner as did Yahshua, Muhammad, Buddha, Confucius, and other prophets of their day. Only the things of this prophet's day differ from the ills of the days of the past, and yet the remedy for the ills of today is about the same as the remedies for the days past. All turning about the pivot, love for humanity. Humanity must be lifted from the unwholesome depths of poverty, misery, and suffering, and placed on the solid rock of salvation. There are some who claim to do this, but upon investigation, one finds that they have slouched under the wings of their cross to extract from those who come to them means by which they can have the pleasures of life while they point their followers to the joys of death. So all those people selling y'all packages and all that stuff under the guise of selling you plates for $500, under the guise of this is nationhood, robbing you. While they feed their sheep, they also shear them while eating. At the close of their day, the master will be heard to tell them, "You have your reward, get thee hence." Rare is it that you find a real prophet, one whose mission is the salvation of the nations. The land is full of false prophets, whose mission is to fleece the people. The time was and now is that there should come into the land a prophet in the likeness of his brothers, to redeem them from their sin and slavery. Truly, this prophet, Noble Drew Ali, is the man, bringing with him the message of love, truth, peace, freedom, and justice, which alone can save the nations. Like the coming of Yahshua, He does not come from the elect, nor the rich, nor the mighty in worldly power, but all power is given unto him to do good. This power is from Allah. It will be his works that will make men of every nation accept the truth that he brings. It will be through his teachings that the nations of the earth will understand the will of the Master. It will be through him that peace on earth and goodwill to all men shall come. It will be through his work that humanity will be brought from the slime of life and placed on the solid rock of salvation. Noble Jew Ali, the prophet. The prophet. So we want to tell the Moors to study their prophet. He's a great man. He brought you 2 or 3 little books that are explosively impactful when you use them as reference points. Once you use them as reference points, trust me, it will make supreme sense why they kept him under wraps, why they didn't want people to fully comprehend, why they played this game of classifying our people, these names that have no tie to their ancient foremothers and forefathers. You know, we're putting the call out to those that are sincere. Consider the teachings of Noble Drew Ali. Take a week on it, 2 weeks on it, and just see for yourself, without outside influence, what did this man really bring? Let me just check this out. You owe it to yourself. And those who have been studying the Prophet, continue to use him as inspiration, to know that he put his life on the line to make sure we had something, to make sure that we, the beneficiaries, know the truth about our nationality and birthrights, so we can truly know thyself. Truly know thyself. And once we know thyself, the mind changes. And once the mind changes, then everything around us will change. So peace and love to all the Moors. Don't forget 347-945-5899. blogtalkradio.com, 9:30. Call in at least 5 minutes before so you can get a slot, because it fills up fast. Islam to all the Moors online. Islam to all the Moors that are continuing the works of Noble Drew Ali and uplifting fallen humanity. And Islam to all the Moors who we haven't bumped into yet, but we feel the vibration. You feel the vibration. You feel y'all on your way home. So we'll be here. We'll just close out with the prayer. And another reminder, no class this Sunday. We got stuff to do. But we'll be back. We'll be back in the new so-called fiscal year with our Noble Drew Ali celebration uploaded. So, we got myself, Brother Seton Rabe, and Jose Pimenta Bay. January 3rd, 2016. Canaanland Moors Noble Drew Ali Day. We don't disappoint when it comes to honoring the Prophet. So peace and love to all the Moors. 5 on the left, 2 on the right. Allah, the Father of the universe, Father of love, truth, peace, freedom, and justice. Allah is my protector, my guide, and my salvation by night and by day through his holy prophet, Noble Drew Ali. Islam, peace, love, and Hotep.